Hey everybody, Phoneybeetlemaniacxs here, and I'm Wiki once again. Yes, it's been a long time since I made a video, just unfortunately life gets in the way. But there's been a video made, and it's a collab of questions Christians can't answer. Now, I find this quite odd, because is it questions you don't want answers to? Is it questions you don't believe there's answers to? What exactly do you believe is not answerable? Because if people provide answers, therefore there are answers to those questions, even though they're not satisfactory to you. Now, Christian Anarchist has already done a response. I'll post the link to this video below. And anybody who wants to respond, please tag me in any response you believe, because, I think it's only fair. I'm going to try and tag as many people who were in the video as possible, because, hey, maybe we can get conversations that don't involve the clown car posse again. But hey, maybe I'm asking for a bit too much there. But anyway, to the video.
Figured we'd give it a shot. So we at Non Sequitur reached out to some of the best atheist content creators here on YouTube.
If God is going to be posited for an explanation for human existence, then by what mechanisms, meaning by what activities and interactions that are organized in such a way that produced humans, did God use? And by what means could we discover those?
It's an interesting question, and I think a quite deep one. The way we can do it is for the fact that we can study the ideas of the quantum gravity field. For example, the idea of the ninth realms. Now, for those who don't know what the ninth realms is, it's the idea that there's multiple universes across multiple universes. It's a multiverse theory, basically. So God used that theory to create the universe, ergo creating us, because we're part of the universe. We're part of the celestial body, which is part of the universal expansion plan, which was done in part of this single universe, though there are many, which was caused by a great boom, which was caused by something which we posit to be a being called God. Now, the thing is, the fact that this did not include God is, I think, quite improbable. That's my reasoning for positing. So the mechanisms we can discuss this is by going down a bit deeper into what is it that created these nine realms, and we find out the way that God did it through that.
Mechanisms.
Among even the most fundamentalist of Christians, there are always people who interpret some part of the Bible metaphorically. Like in the book of Job, they talk about the four corners of the earth. Even fundamentalist Christians, for the most part, interpret that as metaphorical, because we know there are no four corners of the earth. So when we find something in the Bible that doesn't necessarily reflect fact when interpreted literally, how can we definitively tell that that was intended to be interpreted metaphorically and not literally and is actually a falsehood?
Actually, you're wrong. North, east, south, west. There's the four corners of the earth for you, mate. The 4 points of the compass. They're the points that we can point to. What you're talking about is people said that there's a flat earth. The thing is that what do you mean by literally? Because again, you're taking the words off the page. Now the thing is that what you're comparing it against. What kind of rights? Again, you're asking a rather arbitrary question and not going deeper into it. Right? What books are you talking about? Because again, no single book in the Bible is a specific type of genre. They're multiple. So you have to describe to me what you want me to talk about, because I could talk about, for example, Psalms, which is poetry, which is songs, which is literal songs. So we know not to take those literally, because I don't think anybody's going to point to 10cc and say, why are you shooting rubber bullets at those? No, because it's a song. It's not literal. It's a song, a comedic song. Or why is people not arresting Bon Jovi when he sings "Shot to the heart" and "You're to blame"? It's a song. That's how we can tell. We can tell by what type of literature it is and what is it trying to say. Because again, we can judge it by the literature of the place it was written in. So we just basically compare it to that. We don't just read it in a vacuum.
What are your reasons for not being a Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, or follower of one of the many other non-Christian faiths? Is it because you've devoted enormous time and energy to systematically investigating and debunking all these other religions? If you haven't done this, how can you in all honesty claim that your religion is superior? And if you're only a Christian because you happen to have been born into a Christian family, or you were raised in a culture or society where Christianity is commonplace, what about all the other people who, by a twist of fate, have been raised believing one of the many other religions that God has allowed to proliferate?
Well, we could talk about comparative religion. We could do that. I took comparative religion courses, and I did over about a year and a half. We could talk about how I did that. But again, I don't say that my religion is superior. What's superior? Superior to what? In what way is it superior? What do you think I think my religion is? It's something that's meaningful to me. I don't say it's superior to me. It's something that's meaningful to me. I don't expect it to be meaningful to somebody who comes from, is a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever. I mean, I think their religions are interesting and I don't think they're false. But again, I've done comparative religion. I've read the Quran. I've not really read the Bhagavad Gita, but I know bits about it. Again, I don't say they're false. So I've done comparative religion. I've done studies on it. Alright, is that not good enough? Again, this is a question that a lot of atheists get asked, isn't it? Like, why? How come you can debunk all gods? It's so weird. So like, just because you don't research other religions doesn't mean you can't say, because actually, and I hate we've said this, there are people who are converts all over the shop to other religions from whatever religion. I'm an atheist. I used to be an atheist for example. I didn't grow up in necessarily the most religious family in the entire world, and therefore the transition out of it wasn't exactly a hard one. So the idea, you're a Christian country, it's rather bollocks, because again, I looked for my answer and I received it in Christianity. Somebody receives it in Islam. Who am I to criticise that choice? You get in atheism. Who am I to criticise that choice? Next question.
Kyle asked me to come up with a question for Christians. I had a really hard time choosing just one. I mean, much of the Bible makes no sense at all, but I wanted to choose a question that really gets to the heart of the religion, and one that would apply to most, if not all, Christians, no matter their denomination. And so I decided to go with the supposed resurrection of Jesus Christ and the reason why he had to die in the first place. Here's my question. Why would an omnipotent, all-powerful God need a human sacrifice in order to forgive people their sins? If this being is truly capable of doing anything, has unlimited power and resources, and is all-loving, why would it require a brutal torture and killing? Why would it need a blood sacrifice and not just simply forgive people their sins? Especially if it knew their motivations and could judge people according to their intentions. This question has always baffled me, even when I was a Christian. Anyhow, thanks for inviting me to take part in this video, Kyle. Cheers.
One moment. Thank you. Right, this is an understanding of Christianity that is so fucking basic, it's stupid. Let me explain to you how it actually works. His death is not significant. His life is. It's connecting God to man. His death is the finality of that. That it was so short because God could only interact with humans for a limited amount of time, and the whole point of it, if you knew anything about Judaism at all, is that God and man have always been separate. There's always been a separation between the two since the fall. So since the fall, whether you believe in literal fall or metaphorical fall, it doesn't matter. There's been a separation between God and man. There just has been. So God has always tried to mend that gap by doing the Ten Commandments, by doing other stuff. So what Jesus is literally him in human form saying, this is my message, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want you to think, this is why I want you to do it. And the resurrection is about conquering death. It's literally about conquering death. It's conquering what was done with the separation from God. That people's lives were now finite. So what Jesus is now expansion that our life doesn't end at death. Is now that we have that reunification with God. This is Christian theology 101, dudes.
A variety of religions, from ancient Greek beliefs to Native American beliefs, both past and current, account for gods that have relationships with their believers and with their servants. Why do you feel like the relationship that you claim to have with Jesus Christ is somehow special or unique and somehow invalidates how all other believers feel about their gods and their connections with their gods?
Because Jesus Christ was a real person. That's how we know. He actually did things that we can actually connect to on a human level. We can actually look at his life and say, we want to be like that. That is an example of how we believe as Christians that all human beings should strive and actually act like to be good people. Now, again, it's like saying I want to be like Winston Churchill or Abraham Lincoln or JFK or trying to think of Martin Luther King or somebody like that. Somebody who's made a positive difference in this world. That is reason that we're connected to that. The gods they're connected to are part of the natural land. So you can't compare somebody who's a human being who had an actual life that we can connect to something that is part of nature and part of the grand universal idea that they believe in. Sorry.
Hello everyone. In the Old Testament, God didn't like all the unrighteous people on earth. So why did God choose to get rid of all of them with a global flood? Presumably, he could have made them painlessly vanish with a silent snap of his immaterial fingers. And why, after flooding the whole earth, did God decide to hide all evidence of his act?
There was no global flood, it was a local flood. And if you look at every other flood story all over the globe, that this is a common thread. They're usually near a body of water. If you go to Mexico, actually that has a lot of connections to the Jewish story. If you go to like Babylon, you go to any story that has like floods, usually there's a very big body of water right near them, like for example the Med, the Pacific. Every story that has every country that has a flood story, what's right near them? A big ass sea that would tend to flood. The thing is that people tend to contextualize their suffering in global term because all you can see is the nose and the face. That's why when Caesar wrote of Britain, he said we're to the edge of the world. Now, everyone who knows Britain knows that there's islands north of Britain. There's like Iceland and Ireland and Antarctica and stuff like that. But that's what he knew at the time. So again, this is the thing. It's contextual about what people understood at that time, and people were contextualizing it in that. But actually, if you understand what they're actually saying, which is just talking about the land and being flooded, and the fact is the people in know, which is a big club, isn't just like that. And now why God would do that? Okay. Why God would flood? Because peninsulas flood. And if if they're not really doing what you say, and they're connected to the land, you just think, fuck that land, let's get rid of them. Because it is just what it is. I mean, like, the thing is that it doesn't say that everybody died. It just said that a few people who basically were assholes died because they wouldn't believe it. He was telling them, get out of Dodge while Dodge is God. And they wouldn't believe him. You can only tell somebody to get to shelter before the hurricane comes. Before the hurricane comes and comes down your ass. The same.
Why is it that the believers in every religion in history were wrong about their respective religion, despite having the same amount of conviction and evidence as you do for Christianity? It seems to me that you're already an atheist when it comes to all other religions in history, but somehow the one you happen to be born into is the one correct one.
Wow, the amount of ignorance in that same question is just mind-blowing. Let's debunk them, shall we? Not every Christian is born to a Christian family. Janessa D'Souza, Alistair McGrath, Francis Collins. Two of those were born into atheist families, if I remember, or secular families at least. I myself wasn't born into a super religious family. I happened to find my faith later in life. Are we? So your question doesn't really apply to us. Secondly, I'm not an atheist towards other religions. I'll have you know. And even if I was, so goddamn bastard in the world, country, well, what? So what? I'm a moral linguist when it comes to other languages apart from English. I'm not married. I was going to say married apart from my wife. I'm a bachelor apart from my wife. I'm a bastard apart from my parents. What kind of question is this? It doesn't matter. It matters that I've concentrated and studied Christianity, and I believe it based upon the studies I've done. You don't. So, goddamn what? Doesn't define you, does it? Oh, apparently, or maybe it does, I don't know. I don't know you, sorry, mate, but telling me what I should believe, that rubs me the wrong way, mate.
If God is all-powerful and all-loving, Why does he require blood in order to grant forgiveness? Old Testament or New, something had to die before he could forgive anyone. Human beings can forgive each other without there being a death first. Why can't God?
What, you mean like the times in the New Testament people were forgiven without sin without anybody dying? You mean like that? Where it said, forgive those who trespass against us, when he talks about that, there's no blood spill. Where he talks about that God has forgiven will forgive you in everlasting peace, there was no blood sacrifice there. Or when Jesus says, I forgive you of your sins, or stuff like that, or when he talks about the tax rates, where somebody comes to him and he forgives him, there's no blood sacrifice then. And Jesus is God, right? Funny, it's almost like you don't understand the Bible.
If you've never been to the ends of the earth, if you've never been to every planet, if you've never been to the corners of the universe, how do you know other gods don't exist?
I don't. I never said that I don't believe in other gods. Nor have I ever said that what my God actually is. I never said that I don't believe in other gods. I've never said that. What, is this for fundamentalists? I think this is for fundamentalists who are absolute in their beliefs. I've never said that other gods don't exist. I have the ones I believe in. I have the God I believe in. Doesn't mean that I'm totally atheist or anti-theist towards to other gods. Actually, I'm pretty open-minded to it because I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Just saying, and couldn't you? Just thought.
There are thousands of other religions out there, many of which have millions of followers. So according to your logic and theirs, anyone who is a blasphemer to your particular deity is going to be condemned, whether it is to go to hell or to be reincarnated as a less intelligent animal. If your God is true, why is it that he would even allow the minds of humans to be so easily deceived into believing other religions? He essentially would have created brains that can be fooled and ultimately will send these people down to hell. In addition, how do you know you're not one of the people who have been fooled?
Truth.
Okay. Hell, as you understand it, does not exist. Hell is a concept about the idea of separation from God. That the pain is equal to a burning torment of fire. This whole idea that it's a place that all sinners and all this stuff go to is a piece of crap dreamt up by a very, very talented writer in Dante, and was immortalized in the whole Inferno thing and Augustine and all that sort of stuff. The idea of hell, as you understand it, does not exist. Okay? In Christianity. At all. So get it out of your mind that that's what Christians believe. They don't. Okay? What they believe is that people like yourself are going to be separated with God until judgment. And most Christians are actually going to be there pleading your case to God. And do you know who the main person is going to be? Jesus. Again, I do not say that people are going to hell, or nor would I condemn so. Nor would I believe in a God that would do so. Because I actually bother to read about this stuff.
Doesn't fear, curiosity, testing, or doubt, which inoculate us against charlatans and scams. But if your beliefs stand up to scrutiny, then why is doubting Thomas vilified as the bad guy for utilizing the scientific method, while the rest of the disciples are congratulated for following like blind sheep?
Actually, no, that's not what happens in that part of the story. What's actually happening is that Jesus is saying that he's blessed, but blessed are those who blind to see. So it's sort of like, how's that vilification? He's so vilified that he's blessed. What the fuck? One person is vilified in the disciples. One, Judas Iscariot. I think anybody would vilify somebody who betrayed them.
In most sections of Christian theology, there's typically one of two afterlives you'll get into when you die. There might be different subsects of this, but generally speaking, there are these main two ones, heaven or hell. So my question would be, why would you want either of those? Let me lay it out. You can either go to heaven and have no free will, or you can go to hell and burn forever. Take your pick. If you go to heaven, everything's happy at all times, which means you're not allowed to feel sadness. You'll be worshiping God until the end of days, and there's going to be no end of days, so it's going to keep going forever and ever, which means you effectively have no will of your own. You are forced to worship this deity until who knows when. Now, if you go to hell, then you're going to be burning forever, but at least you have your free will. In neither of these are you given a choice or a chance to be anything but what you will be shaped and molded into. In both of these, you will effectively be a slave, whether you have your free will and you're burning and tortured, or you have no free will and thus are effectively stuck in unending servitude. I don't believe either of these places exist, and I have no reason to believe either of these places exist, but it seems that a lot of Christian theists want these places to exist. And my question would have to be, why? Both of them sound absolutely abysmal.
What the fuck are you talking about? Heaven, as you describe it, doesn't exist in Christian theology. Hell, as you describe it, doesn't exist in Christian theology. So whereabouts do you get this from? Pulling them from your ass? It sounds like it. Oh, sorry, I'm getting across. Right. The idea of heaven you're portraying is not portrayed in the Bible. It's portrayed by certain people who have a certain theology about what heaven is going to be like. Not that it's a closeness with God. Nobody says that heaven is praising God forever. That's just a certain part of Christian theology. And there's actually a little microscopic part of Christian theology. Not all Christian theists, whatever the bloody Christian theist is. It's all derogatory, isn't it? And we'll get into that about it. Second of all, the idea, as I said to that guy before, the idea of hell being a burning place, it isn't a burning place. It's a literal place on earth. It is literally somewhere in Jerusalem. I can point you to it on Google Maps. Okay, so why do we believe in it? The idea of heaven? The idea of heaven is being closer to God. Nobody says it's an actual place. It's just us being closer to God. That connection has been redesigned because of Jesus. Nobody said it's a place where we have to worship God's community. So we're closer to Him. Therefore, we're having a perfect life. That is it. There is no idea of what sadness or grief or whatever those emotions are poured from you. Those are human emotions. They're devoid from you when we become a celestial being. That's why the idea of purging yourself is a good thing. That's why hell is actually a good metaphor. Because hell was about putting the bad things away before you met God. If you understood anything about Christian theology, you would understand this.
Both of us believed in God.
It meant everything to us. It colored how we saw the world. It gave us meaning, and it gave us strength.
Then one day, we couldn't. We had questions. We had doubts, and they couldn't be answered.
We searched. We wanted to, and we tried. We struggled to make ourselves believe again. But we couldn't pretend we did without knowing that it was a lie.
So here's our question.
Can a person simply choose to believe in something that they are not convinced of?
If not, and God created our brains to require a certain level of evidence in order to be convinced, why has He chosen to not provide that level of evidence for us?
Even though we both wanted to believe.
I don't know. I don't know, because free will. He has the right to choose to accept or right to reject. Because again, it'd be subjective. Because what piece of evidence might you accept, but the person right next to you might say, "Nah, I don't believe that for a second." So therefore, it's subjective. Because one person's piece of evidence might be good enough for them. Another piece, isn't this true throughout the world today? Because there's people who believe in Christianity based upon what evidence we have, and there's people who reject it based upon what evidence we have. So that shows you how subjective it is and why free will is such a good thing. Because people can accept. Because again, what will be acceptable to you might not be acceptable to the next person and the next person. So again, it goes on infinitum. Because how is what's God supposed to do? Protect it for every single person who ever exists ever, and say, "Do you know what? I'm going to provide every piece of evidence ever." It doesn't really exist. You just provide the evidence that's out there. If you accept it, you don't. You accept it or you don't. It's up to you. It's free will.
Often, creationists will characterize the Big Bang as something magically created from nothing. But then you have creationists who literally believe a supernatural being created the entire universe. Literally something magically from nothing. My question to you is why is the first one irrational but the second one logical?
Not creationist, so the question is moot to me.
We atheists get asked all the time what the basis of our morality is. It's as if because we don't have some holy book or we don't worship a god, we have no true way of having a moral compass.
I'm going to pause it there. People who say that are idiots. Atheists do have a moral centre. No, again, I would never argue they don't. What I would say is based upon a really flawed ethical framework, because you're basing it upon logic of human beings who are flawed. They just are flawed. Because it doesn't matter how good, Martin Luther King, Socrates, Plato, Kant. By the way, I like all these people that I'm naming. Nietzsche. And by the way, I've actually read these. Just so Aristotle, whoever you want to read, or Hume, or whoever. They are the moral framework. Their ideas are flawed because they're coming from a human place. They're not coming from the divine. So that's why you Christians say that we get it from the divine, because Jesus is supposed to be the on earth. That's why his ideas have resonance beyond the simple human. So anybody who says atheists don't have a mother and are stupid. End of. Continue.
Call me crazy, but I don't think you have to have the promise of heaven to see that doing good is just good.
Define good for me. And that is not a stupid question or a rational question. Define good for me. Because what I deem good, you may not. Again, what do you determine as good? What things would you suggest is good? Name some things for me. I'm not saying it has to be a complete list. Just name some things that again, if I was to say, list the things that because a lot of atheists say causes the least amount of harm, but that's not good. You're going out your way not to cause his head isn't good. That's going out your way not to be a jackass. So you need to define the word good for me.
Well, the basis for my morality is simple. I believe that doing the most good and the least harm benefits not only me, but those around me.
And a projected trial in 5,000 strikes again. Right. That's a really shitty moral system, dude. Because just because you don't cause harm doesn't mean you are doing good. And just because you're doing good doesn't mean you're not causing harm. You can do good things and still be causing harm. There's a term, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And it's a term because everybody who's done something evil isn't some villain from a slightly more country going, oh yes, no, the real life doesn't work that way. The people who do bad were honestly thinking they were doing good at the time. So I need you to define these terms for me. What exactly is harm? What exactly is good? What exactly makes that moral? It isn't moral. Because again, doing good is nothing to do with harm. It's to do with making sure that is the right thing to do. And the right thing to do is, again, it's dependent on the situation, because not every situation is the same. Because doing good for one thing is not necessarily doing good for the next thing. Anyway, so continue.
I believe that things like kindness and love and laughter benefit not only me, but those around me. However, I also believe that things like judgment, condemnation, and a willful ignorance to follow something that has no basis set in reality or backed up by evidence is ultimately harmful.
Where's your evidence for that it's supposed to be harmful? Is it based upon your feelings? Is there sort of tangible evidence that you can supply it for? Where is it ultimately harmful? Again, and I'm asking you to back up your claim. Because again, what is evidence? What is evidence? Because what I define as evidence and what you do may be subjective. What about philosophical evidence? Does that class as evidence? You know, because I could point to like your Kant, Aristotle, people like that who supplied evidence, or Augustine, Justin Martyr, Eusebius, who provided evidence. So again, determined evidence for me, because those are evidence enough for me. But hey, that's just maybe it's being me.
And not only to me, but to those around me. So for my question, I'd like to turn the tables. What's the basis for your morality? Is it the Bible? Is it really the Bible?
My morals, no. My ethical center, yes. Because my morals are based upon multiple factors. Like, for example, they're based upon my upbringing, they're brought about where I live in my country, what country I'm raised in, what sort of cultural things are around me. Again, that is my morals. My ethical basis, the things that actually determines my morals, is actually Christianity. And it's not the Bible, it's Jesus Christ. Because the Bible is just a book. It's just a book. It's just a book with words in it. It isn't Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is transcendent of that book. He transcends that book. Anybody who tells you, my morals come from the Bible, no. You get Jesus' teaching from the Bible. But Jesus Christ himself has to live in you for you to have an ethical centre. As a Christian, I'm not saying for atheists, by the way. As a Christian, you have to have Jesus living in you, because it tells you to be loving, kind, patient, all these stuff that I think even atheists would agree with are good things to be, and maybe that I think that not all Christians succeed at that, and it's something that we have to work on. It's a vigilant thing, because again, that is our ethical centre. Anyway, continue.
That same Bible that doesn't condemn slavery or rape. Instead, it says...
Actually, rape is condemned, but we'll forget that mistake. Because there's a part in the Bible, I think it's the Old Testament, I'm not sure what book, where it talks about how if a woman screams out and a man's fine to be on top of her, even if she's unmarried, that guy's going to be killed. I consider that condemning rape, but again, if you say modern ideas of rape, I'd agree with that, because again, the idea of rape now is that a woman can be silent and and still be not consenting. But again, those are more things that we've discovered now with the implementation of psychology. But there is condemnation of rape in the Bible. Sorry, there just is. By the way, the idea of slavery, slavery is condemned because Jesus talks about us not being free from bondage. And he's not talking about the sort of bondage you do with whatever party you have on a Friday night. He's talking about that kind of bondage, that people being enslaved and being festooned to a lot of things, and that includes slavery. So yes, slavery is condemned. It's just not condemned outright, because again, to be so would be death sentence. But again, a lot of atheists don't seem to understand this. The death sentence bit.
Things like, if your daughter is raped, she should marry her attacker. Or, if you're a slave owner...
That isn't what it says. It says if she hasn't cried out. See, this is the thing that people don't actually bother to read it. They just read Bible.com. If you actually read that passage, that's what I just said before is actually in it. Read it. And don't take this straight by word. Actually read it for yourself. It says, in the actual text, that if she does not cry, if she cries out, that he's going to be killed. So yeah. It's talking about the fact that if they're having sex outside of wedlock. Now, was that right? No, I don't agree with that.
And you find yourself in the situation where your slave is unruly, you are within your right to beat him within an inch of his life. So many scriptures. 66 books. Filled with thousands of pages. Hundreds of thousands of words, but not one of which says that rape or slavery is morally wrong. So what's the basis for your morality again?
Okay, morality is based upon my culture, and my ethics are based upon Jesus. Because what Jesus was doing and saying are things that I think I need to mirror in my life to be a better person. Simple, right? Again, the Bible is just a book. It's just words on a page. It doesn't mean anything if I'm not acting that out. If I'm not doing that. You know, again, people say, oh, you know, do your Bible, do as it says. Yeah. Those words are hollow if you're not doing that. So I tried to act like that. Hence this. So, as such, I'll be posting this video around. If you want to share around, please go ahead. To everybody who made the video, if you want to respond, please do so. Just all I ask is that you tag me some way, or you let me know some way that if it's been via Google Plus, I'm always available there. I'll try and get hold of you there, just so that you can have a watch of this. I think it's only polite. If you respond to what I'm saying here, it's only polite that we try and tag each other so that I can at least give you a response. And maybe we could start this with, they've got a dialogue. Who knows? Anyway, this is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, follow dreams, make it true.